Director Adkins is going to report on the dual language immersion program.
Sure, thank you. So Director Belial Gonzalez and myself met with staff on February 27th, once again stressing the urgency and need for action that we feel around this issue of dual immersion. So Director Gonzalez reminded us of a December 2004 report from a district work group which laid out the importance and value of dual immersion as a strategy for closing the achievement gap. And the report has specific recommendations for adding immersion programs at several schools, which were then implemented in places like Rigler and Kelly. So just to know that this report remains a valuable resource and really a blueprint for future expansion. And of course, there's also our Resolution 4377, which we passed in November 2010 on establishing improvement of English language learner programs and outcomes as an urgent priority, which we need to continue revisiting and keeping alive. And part of that resolution stated the board directs the superintendent to evaluate the impact of dual immersion as an instructional strategy and a potential systematic expansion across the district. So at the meeting, we discussed further the issue of costs, because that's one of the things we've been trying to get clarity around, obviously, particularly in this budget situation. And my understanding at this point from our discussion with staff is that while there are some additional costs for curriculum and materials, as long as there are sufficient students in the class and a qualified teacher, providing dual immersion is not inherently a more costly model. In other words, it's more about planning well to ensure there's going to be a sufficient critical mass of students, and about proactively recruiting qualified bilingual teachers, as well as ensuring the building has a leader who is committed to the program. There's also the questions in terms of planning as far as whether it's a whole school model or a single strand or multiple strands within the school, and working those out. And then there's also the issue, which we've brought up a number of times, around the capacity at the high school level and within a feeder pattern. So there are a number of organizational issues, but again, it's things that have been worked out before in the district and discussed. It does appear that existing ELL funds could be used differently, for example, to support immersion programs rather than pullouts, but we need more discussion for the board to understand better what our options are around that, and the viability of really establishing a clear pathway for students where dual language is the primary offering for our emerging bilingual students when they come in, so that's very clear to them. In the meeting, we also made it clear that to the extent that there are any issues with the adults in the building, as far as principals or existing teaching staff who aren't on board with the importance of dual immersion, that is not an excuse for delay or inaction. In addition to adding, the staff is looking at a couple of ways of expanding. One would be adding classes at existing programs, so they continue to look at that. The next potential expansion site is Scott. There's been some discussions there, but not a clear decision one way or the other yet. So we asked them to come up with an immediate decision and action plan. So we're going to meet again on March 20th to see the plan with more specifics for expansion of dual immersion for the short and medium term. So that's where the discussion stands right now.